What is up, guys? It is a balmy 50-degree afternoon here in the Midlands of South Carolina. That's 10 degrees Celsius. It rained this morning and cooled everything off, and it's going to be getting cooler as the week progresses, and we're going to be getting our first real hard freeze of the year. So far, I have a few sunflowers in these garden beds right outside my house. And I put them there hoping that I would get flowers, and I left them when I realized I wouldn't get flowers because they were kind of my gauge. Everything else in these beds is frost hardy, and so a frost wouldn't kill it. And I like to have some frost tender plants that I can know for sure when the frost came, and they haven't died yet. So I know we might have gotten a tiny little freeze, but it wasn't an actual hard enough freeze to set in. So I'm drinking some tea, warming up. Those of you who live in really cold places are like, are you serious? 50 degrees? And yeah, I'm cold at 50 degrees. 50 degrees warrants a lot of layers for me. I've made a mistake. And I'm like hating the fact that this happened. But it happened. And it is what it is, and I'm sharing it with you guys even though I don't like that this happened and I don't really want to share it. There could be a learning lesson to be gleaned here, at least that'd be something. These are my bare root strawberry plants. This nasty, snotty looking mess. This is not the fault of the seller. I bought these from an Etsy store, and I guess they came in. It was when my back was out, and I had plans. I was going to put these in my green stalks. Earlier I was like, Maya, I don't think the strawberries ever came in. And so I decided to go check the tracking, and I just, you know, it had kind of just slipped my mind and that I hadn't seen them, and I thought, whoa, those never came. But then I saw on the tracking that they had been delivered, like, shortly after I ordered them. They were very promptly sent and delivered. And they got stuck with some other boxes. And obviously they've been in the box for the last few weeks. And so everything that was green has died and turned to mush. Because obviously plants need sunlight, and so if they don't get it, they die back. And I can see the leaves here where there were leaves, and they died. So this was our fault. Basically received this delivery and stuck it on the boxes, and I just didn't notice it. I didn't see that it was an unopened package that had come in the mail. So definitely having a talk with my family about making sure packages get put in a space where we can see them. Kicking myself for not having kept up with the fact that I ordered this, even though my back was out. I was in pain, and makes you miss things. But I'm not ready to just completely give up on this mushy mess of bare root plants just yet. In fact, let's take them. I have to make 2 trips over here. Plants are way more resilient than we give them credit for. But most of these are significantly larger, and they have roots that, even though they sat in a box for weeks, they still have a lot of life in them. And I feel pretty confident that if I go ahead and put these in the soil, they're going to keep trying to grow. Even though their last attempts have turned to mush, I think that if I put these roots in the soil, there's still a good chance that I'll get some strawberry plants here. Some of these smaller ones that don't have very much of a root system, these probably won't do anything. I'm still going to put them in the soil because, as I always say, if I put them in the trash, I'll have a 0% chance of getting anything. But if I put them in the soil, then, I mean, my chances are a lot higher at that point. If there's any way that they're going to grow, that's the only way I can find out. So while this was an unfortunate mistake, maybe all is not lost. Maybe there's still something here to salvage. It's done now. How are we going to move forward? So I'm going to continue with my plan. I had hoped to do this a few weeks ago, but not the week that it's going to be getting pretty cold, but I think it'll be completely fine. I'm going to be planting these bare root strawberries in my original Greenstalk towers here. This one has a few things in it. I've cleaned out everything else. And then probably this leaf tower, I've got some more lettuce starts and kale starts I'm going to refresh in there. So I'm about to jump into like how I do this and show you guys planting these bare root strawberries. But I did want to let you know that Greenstalk is having their big Black Friday sale starting today and going through this weekend. They have a couple of really great sales every year, and if you've been on the fence about buying a Greenstalk, now is a great time to do it at a discount. You can also stack my coupon code on top of the sale and get an additional discount. So I'll put links to that stuff down below. These make really good holiday gifts. I love Greenstalks. They have really opened up gardening to a lot of people that don't have very much space, and so many of the people that watch my channel are really kind of in their waiting room space where they're really wanting to learn how to grow, but they're not maybe in a place where they can. They're living in a rental, they're living in a duplex or an apartment, or they have physical limitations and they're not able to build a big garden or maintain a big garden. And you don't have to. You can still grow something. Even growing a small bit of food on your back porch is very validating. I've grown significant amounts of food in these containers. They have a really small footprint, and so I'm a big advocate of them, as well as the fact that they're a family-owned business and these are made in the United States, and I also really like that. I've done a lot of videos about Greenstalks. I'll put some links to those too if you're the kind of person that really likes to dive deep into researching about something before you purchase it. I feel you. I am that person also, which is why I like to make that kind of content. So those links will be down below, as well as my affiliate link that gives a throwback to my channel whenever you purchase through it, which I very much appreciate. Now let's amend this planter so I can plant my poor pitiful strawberries. I was in the middle of amending these towers. As you can see here, I've got a bag of soil laid right here, and I went in to get some tea and decided to grab my camera and show you guys this. I kind of refresh the soil anytime I plant something new in a Greenstalk. You don't have to replace all of the soil in these every season. That would be really expensive. Being in a container, you do need to feed your plants. It's not quite the same as growing like in maybe a raised bed where you have a lot more soil, because these plants just have access to limited soil. They don't have like earthworms and stuff like that adding nutrients as the season progresses. So it's really important that you feed your plants. So I do use a liquid fertilizer. I really like Neptune's Harvest. They make an organic like sea kelp fertilizer in a liquid form, and you just add it into your water and pour it in the top, and it disperses it throughout the whole planter. If you've ever had trouble growing in a container before, like your plants just really didn't do well, the first place that you look is if you are fertilizing regularly, and that can be the issue, because they're going to use up the nutrients that are in the container, even if it's a good sized container, just within the first couple months. So I had this full of lettuce greens, salad greens, and we harvested a lot off of them, but it's been fairly warm here and they ended up going to seed. So a lot of these I had to pull out. In fact, here's an example of that. This romaine lettuce is starting to go to seed here. That's kind of the risk whenever you're fall gardening, because it might get so cold that it kills your plants, especially if you live in an area that it could go either way, or it might stay so warm that it sends them to seed. It's always worth the risk for me, because if you win in that situation, if the circumstances turn out right, you end up with food and the enjoyment of having a garden. And even though a lot of this went to seed, after a short period of time, we harvested a ton of organic salad greens for the 6 weeks. It really peaked for about 6 weeks where they were big enough to really harvest from before they went to seed. And when I consider how much those salad greens would have cost at the store, and just the enjoyment of being able to go out and pick in my yard, it was worth doing. This is made locally, and I will just, at the beginning of a new season, which technically this is still a fall season planting, but I consider every planting in the Greenstalk, every time I'm going to put something new, I'll just take like a handful of compost like this and just set it right on top of one of these pockets. Usually there's enough space where the soil is either settled or like I pulled some of it out whenever I was pulling these plants out. And I'll just fill this back up a little bit, and it adds about, you know, maybe an inch or so of compost on top of this. And what happens here whenever I do this is whenever I water this thing, it waters from the top, it's gonna run through this compost and just add nutrients to that whole pocket of soil. Plus, being that this is fresh organic matter, it holds moisture well, and it's kind of like mulching. You might not think of like the need for mulch, but truly having this fresh organic matter that's adding a new covering to the soil, it does help that soil become less compact and maintain some structure. And if you can't find a bagged compost like this, you can just use like a good potting soil and do this same thing, adding a little bit of a layer on top, just a couple of inches. And I do it this way, just kind of like scooping a bit into each pocket of the Greenstalk. I do the same thing for any like pots or containers. I just scoop about an inch or so onto the top. With the Greenstalks, this is easier than trying to take it apart. It's a little more time consuming to go and like scoop it into each little individual cell. If you wanted to do this faster, you could disassemble the thing and just pour some on top and then put it back together, but that would require more heavy lifting. I'll take a little more time doing a job and make it a little easier on my body because I'm not super strong. And while I can take these apart, even though I'm not super strong, I just prefer to do it this way. I think I might actually leave these romaines here and just let them fully go to seed and save the seeds from them, because at this point it's so late in the season that if I sow anything from seed right here, it's probably gonna be really slow going, and I figure at this point I can save the seeds and replant this in the spring. All the stuff in these beds went a little bit slow, but I can get a little bit of food. I've been snacking on peas up here. That's pretty good. Obviously, I could have harvested all of them and made a single meal or stir fry out of them, but we've been leaving them up to be able to snack fresh, because I think it does us all a little good to come out and eat something from the garden. So I haven't just harvested everything from here. All right, I'm actually sitting down. Don't normally plant things sitting down, but this is the eye level to the camera. So with these bare root strawberries, I'm just gonna go through and press these down into each one of these pockets. You could probably get away with planting 2. Oh, see, this is hopeful. This makes me feel hopeful. Look at this, okay? So this one has like some mold and mush and all of that, but there's a tiny little sprout here of new life. I don't know if you guys can even see that, but I might still get some strawberries. So I'm gonna plant each one of these, just 1 per cell right now. This is hit or miss. We will find out together if I totally screwed up here and wasted my money in buying these, or I might end up getting some strawberries and all will be well. I have goofed before and I have had varying results. Oh, I need to pay attention. I'm just talking and putting these in. I'm gonna end up double planting, so time-lapse time. So over here I still do have, these are actually kohlrabi up on the top, and then I've got a row of sweet peas around the middle. And I'm gonna go ahead and just put the strawberries in the open spaces. Now strawberries are perennial, and that means they last more than 1 season. These things will be done once they become harvestable. I can, I'll harvest them and then pull them out. And at that point I could always put some more strawberries in. I'm planning on doing like an actual Sizely strawberry patch. The Greenstalk, I've had strawberries in a Greenstalk. Let's see, I gave the one that I had in Arkansas full of strawberries to my mom before I moved, and they had been in there for 2 years, I think, if I recall correctly. And it was really nice because you just had this steady stream. They were ever-bearing strawberries. And you just had this steady stream of berries that you could go out and snack on. And we harvested quite a bit from just the 1 tower of berries. And I may even stick some of these in these raised beds just to see how they do. Now, in the spring, when we get our big garden space situated and figure out where everything is going, I'm planning on doing like a really large space so that I can harvest enough berries at once to like really do some canning and stuff. When you're trying to get into preservation, you have to plant a pretty good amount of something to be able to provide for a family our size. Now, I'm about to break a rule and I want to like explain it to you guys so you don't do as I do without understanding the risk, whatever that is. I'm about to fill this leaf planter full of these bare roots. These bare roots are half rotten. If I don't plant them in something, they are going to be fully rotten and there will be no strawberries coming from them ever. So any soil that I can put them in is better than not putting them somewhere. I have this leaf planter. It's fully amended with lovely rich soil and compost. It's a good place. Now, the Greenstalk company, they'll tell you whether they recommend like the leaf planter versus the original planter. The original has these deep pockets and the leaf planter has more shallow pockets. So this is what we typically use for like lettuces and kales, and this is where we would typically grow things like peppers or tomatoes. And they actually recommend the original for strawberries. And I know people who have grown strawberries in the leaf, but I will typically stick with the company's recommendation for their product because, you know, like if they say that that's the better thing, I typically believe them. And while this may be better for like long term and also for overwintering because it gets more soil around the roots, I'm just gonna put these in here because otherwise they're just gonna go bad. And if I feel like they need more space than this in the spring, I can move them out of here, you know, assuming that they're alive and well. Hopefully they'll be alive and well. I'm gonna show you guys how I'm planting these, just so you know. It's pretty simple. Oh, that's so nasty looking. So I'm just taking these bare roots and just pushing the roots down in this lovely soft amended soil and leaving the top part of the plant kind of sticking out. You can kind of see all of these where there's a little bit sticking out. Now it would be more brownish and green had these been in better shape, but you don't have to go straight down with strawberry roots. They can kind of be towards the top, but you know, pressing them down pretty well into the soil works. And it's pretty easy to do it in these things because the soil is so nice and loose. I've got a few more left here. I'm just gonna stick them around the edge of this raised bed here. Like I said, at this point, if I don't get these planted, there's no hope for them. I mean, I'm feeling more and more confident the more I handle these and get them into the soil that they're gonna grow. Like I've seen quite a few that although they had some mushy spaces, they had like fresh little green nubs and the roots are still very much full of life, which makes me feel good. Y'all check this out. Sweet Maya made some water accessibility by my little garden. Such a sweet little darling. Where are you going with that milk?
Papa tea.
Oh, you're taking over Papa tea. Nice.
The queen to help get him back to full health.
The cream. All right. I just sprayed that in my tea. I make about 3 cups of tea every day that I don't even drink, between garden soil or like reheating it so many times that it gets gross. Coffee or tea. I switched to tea in the winter. I drink way more tea than coffee in the winter, though I still do drink coffee in the morning. What about you guys? Are you winter tea drinkers? I never drank hot tea till I married Jeremiah, and his Nana, she's from Newfoundland, and so having that heritage, she was a hot tea drinker. And so he grew up drinking hot tea. That was like a thing in their family, and he got me hooked on it. So I don't in the summer. I just hardly drink any hot tea at all in the summer, but in the winter, it's like an all day thing. And I switched to something without caffeine like in the afternoon so I can sleep at night. So I'm gonna go ahead and water these. Just gonna water the top until it starts running out the bottom. So I noticed while I was squatting down over here next to these cabbages that they are covered in aphids. I mean, just completely covered in them. I hadn't really looked at the underside of these little leaves, and I had missed that, so thankfully I saw it. Hey, there's my dad. Hey, Dad! He's actually getting ready to start grading out the place for our barn out in the field, which will be good. It's going to be nice to get that set up just in time for the weather to get cold. So with these aphids, I'll probably start and just spray these off, like just get a, I need to find it, but my garden trailer is finally here. It came with Noah. So I have all my gardening supplies. I went a couple months without them, but I have them all now. So I somewhere in that garden trailer is a spray bottle. And what I'll do is just get a spray bottle of like soapy water. Usually I'll use like, it's like a Castile soap, like some sort of liquid Castile soap. And I get the peppermint one because peppermint also, just peppermint oil has qualities that are pesticidal, kind of, they are a deterrent. And so just by using that peppermint soap, it sort of kind of stacks. If you got to use soap, might as well use one that has the extra oomph to it. But I'll put a squirt of that peppermint soap in a spray bottle and set it on the stream, not the shower, so it's straight. And I'll just come and just spray these and spray the aphids off. I'll probably just start with that. Of course, you can put neem oil on stuff or diatomaceous earth, but we have a lot of rain in our forecast this week. And so if you put diatomaceous earth out and then it rains, you got to do it again. And so I'll probably just start with that and see how persistently they come back. I'll tell you, like, moving to a new place, even with a very similar climate, it's just very different. I cannot ever remember dealing with aphids in November in Arkansas. And so the fact that there are aphids on these, I mean, I hadn't even looked for them because it just wasn't anywhere on my radar that that would be a problem. So I'm gonna have to learn. I'm just gonna have to learn how to garden in a new place. I feel a little better. I don't feel a lot better. Seeing all these mushy strawberry tops sticking out, it still makes me feel a little bit irked at myself for allowing that to happen. But we must have grace for our mistakes and hope for the best. In the worst case scenario, I just have to get more bare root strawberries and plant them out probably later, probably early in the spring. And this watery tea, I'm gonna have to go make a new cup of that. Here's to redoing things. Or doing them and hoping that they pull through. My little garden hasn't been quite as fruitful as I've hoped, but I do tell you what, every day that I come out here and I see this little garden here, it does warm my heart and it makes me happy. And I have sat in this chair looking at this little garden, dreaming of spring multiple times now, and just reminding myself that anytime you are waiting is a great time to learn for what's next and to just be thankful for what's here now, which I definitely am thankful for these green stalks and these few raised beds and the opportunity to get my hands dirty because that is definitely good for my soul. So thank you guys for hanging out with me today. All the links that I mentioned for the Greenstalk videos, the sale, and I will also put a link to the place where I got my strawberries. I got them on Etsy. I don't know them. I don't have any like affiliation with that company, but I just searched it and most places were out of stock and they had really good reviews. So again, it was not their fault that they were in that state. I was kind of hesitant to link them because I don't want anybody giving them any flack. It was totally on me. I don't know very many plants that can sit in a box for weeks and not end up looking like the mess that those did. So thank you for hanging out with me today. Let's just turn this tea over on myself. I bless you. Until next time.